January 24th, 2021. We are visiting today with my friend. Consider him definitely a very good friend, a mentor to me, as well as a lot of other folks, and an official, a referee that's been successful at every level and still moving onward and upward. He's the guy that sets a standard for all of us to measure ourselves by. He's a great role model. Casey McClellan. Hello, Casey.
Hey, Bob.
Hey.
Certainly not sure I'm all those things, but I appreciate the kind words and certainly aspire to make our local officials proud, and certainly realize that this is where it all started for me. And so I'm excited to visit with you.
Good. Let's go ahead and jump right in. Tell us a little bit about Casey McClellan. What do you want us to know?
Well, first and foremost, I've got a beautiful family that's extremely supportive of this refereeing avocation. Married a fantastic former high school basketball player, collegiate basketball player. She was a 3A MVP when she was a senior in high school. So very fortunate to have a great wife who understands the game, played at a high level, and two great kids that are one's a dancer and one is a hockey player in the winter. So they're smart enough to realize that the guys in black and white stripes maybe make their life miserable. So they've chose something else to do in the winter besides play this crazy game of basketball. But certainly most importantly, again, is having a supportive family that understands, we're away from them on nights and weekends, and knowing that they support you and are your biggest fan is certainly one of the most important things for our success in this crazy thing we do. This is my 20th year refereeing 20th year refereeing basketball. It's my 14th Division I season, which never dreamt I would get to 14, but feel very honored and grateful, and it's certainly a blessing to continue to referee college basketball. It's been a very unique year, and we're doing a lot of crazy things to have the opportunity to get on the floor, and we certainly, I think, have been reminded that you can't take anything for granted, and we're very fortunate to be on the floor with these kids and have a basketball season. One of the things that I think's helped me along the journey is I was once upon a time a coached a little bit of college basketball at Southern Utah and at Dixie State College, I guess Dixie State University now. I was a head softball coach at Dixie as well. I think that's been something that's helped my perspective as, we have conversation with coaches and understand the emotion and excitement and all the things that go into being a coach. I really lean on that from time to time when the emotions of the game get going. Highlights as far as refereeing career goes, I've been very, very fortunate. Had a lot of luck along the way and great mentors, but I was able to work one state championship at the high school level. I worked one Scenic West Athletic Conference championship at the JUCO level. I've worked two WAC tournaments, worked the Pac-12 tournament 1 year, and been in the Big Sky tournament for 4 years. And 2 years ago, was blessed with the opportunity to ref the championship game, and that certainly has helped elevate my status as a referee. Don't think that I really changed my play calling, but it's amazing how perspective changes when people see the success you have. All of a sudden, the trust level goes up, and that's certainly something that's helped these last couple of years. Is my profile and the trust from from coaches has certainly been increased and made life a little bit easier as a referee. So
it's quite a
snapshot of who I am.
Yeah, it's quite a resume, Casey. I don't care who you compare it to. That's quite a list of accomplishments. So we're proud of you and proud for you. But talk to me a little bit about, with all that success, and there's quite a bit of it there at every level, every step along the way. With all that success, what keeps you motivated to keep working on your game, and what specifically are you working on this year?
Well, I think, the guys who are really good at this thing realize that if you ever referee a perfect game, it's probably time to walk off the floor and call it a career. Every game we ref, there's that one call or that one situation where, man, if I would have just been in the right position, I might have had a better look. And so my ongoing challenge that I have each and every year is, as I break down a ton of video and watch myself, positioning is number one for me always, because I firmly believe at every level, whether it be girls freshman, boys seventh grade, or even at the Division I level, if we're in the right position and we have the ability to see between players, we're pretty darn accurate. We're pretty darn good when we blow our whistle. It's when we don't have a great look, when we seem to miss a call or potentially guess on a play. So, again, the ongoing process of trying to be in the right position to make the call is what I think we will all continue to try to work on forever. And for me, the way that I continue to try to work on that is watch a lot of video and try to figure out how do I anticipate that one move to the left, that one move to the right that gets us in position to see through players as contact happens. And, and another thing I always work on, and I don't know that there's a recipe or an owner's manual, is how do we better communicate and work with coaches to try to diffuse or de-escalate the emotions that happen with coaches and calls they don't like, and that's a craft that very few have ever mastered, and it's an ongoing journey to try to figure out what is the right thing to say at the right time. And so trial and error certainly as we go through the conversations with coaches.
Great. I'm going to drill down a little bit here. Matching calls, being consistent, working with different officials night in and night out, having a feel for the game. The high school game is the same game, if you will, at the D1 level, but it's different. Talk to me about how you manage all that consistency, working with different people night in and night out, having a feel for the game. What advice have you got for us?
I think most importantly, we need to recognize that we're all different. We all have different personalities. We have different skill sets. We maybe even have different philosophies of the way we go about our business. But if we're committed to understanding the manual and positioning and understanding the rule book, we should all have a common goal to get plays right. And we can beat around the bush and pretend like it's not real, but we all have nights where we see an assignment and we see maybe a person on that list that we go, ooh, his personality and my personality maybe don't always gel, but it's our job and it's our commitment to be the best official that night for the kids who are on the floor. And if we go into that game understanding that there's a clear-cut understanding of where I'm supposed to be, when I'm supposed to be there, and referee as the rules are written, and commit to be a good partner to each other, I think that we'll find we'll be much more successful. And you mentioned, Bob, I think the most important thing that I see and that I feel is if we're consistent on both sides of the floor, the coaches trust us. We have the 50-50 block charge play that's a charge on one end, and we go on the other end, we have a 50-50 block charge play. If we're consistent, we call a charge both times, there becomes a trust, and the coaches are less worried about us refereeing and more worried about coaching their kids. Where we get ourselves in major trouble is if we have, again, a 50-50 call on one end and we call it a block, and then we turn around on the other end and call it a charge. You've got one coach that thinks that you're out to get him, and you're not consistent. And once we have that little lack of trust from the coaches that we're not being consistent, we're fighting upstream the entire night to try to create some trust from that coach that thinks that you're not being consistent. And that's, as you mentioned, having a feel for what's going on. You need to know what your partners are calling, marginal or soft hand check call on one end. You sure as heck can't miss that same marginal or soft hand check on the other end. If you're consistent, these coaches start to trust you. And, maybe more even important is you as a team, as a crew, have an understanding or a feel that you're on the same page. And when the three of you or the two of you are on the same page, seeing the same game, the game is just better. There's really no no argument there that, man, these guys are dialed in. They're calling rebound fouls on one end, they're calling rebound fouls on the other end. And then there's that, as you mentioned, consistency in the game that creates a great amount of trust.
Great. Going to put you on the spot here a little bit as a mentor, as an advice giver. Not to talk out of school, but talk to us about what you look for in a good official. And more importantly, what are the do's and don'ts for guys that are looking to progress and move up?
I think one of the most important things that we can try to get around it the most, as much as we'd like to, but the most important thing is appearance. Do you look the part? Are you in shape? Does your uniform fit? Do you take pride in the way your shoes look? You can't hide behind appearance because perception is reality. Do you look the part? And then secondly, I think, have you committed to being good at your craft? Do you understand the rules? Do you know where you're supposed to be? Is your whistle brisk? Has confidence when you blow? Are your mechanics, again, perception is reality. When you make a call, your mechanics crisp. Nothing worse than making a call and it's $100 call and you go to the table and you report, you look terrible, and all of a sudden the confidence from that coach is maybe he didn't really believe in his call. It's just the little things that I think create such an important perception from these people. I think you can fake it a little bit when you look the part, and what's much more difficult on the other side is you might be absolutely spot on and every call is correct, but if you don't look the right way, these coaches maybe have a different, value to what they think you are as a referee. Fair or not, I think that's unfortunately reality. And then, I would mention too, is if you're a great partner and you're a great communicator with your partners and you can communicate with players and coaches, that's another thing that I think really set apart the great officials. Something I continue to work on. Randy McCall is probably the one that I look to the most at the collegiate level. He's a great communicator with coaches. He's a great communicator with players. And he just really sets the tone in a game of ease. And these guys aren't afraid to talk to him just because he's such a great communicator. And that's something that I would suggest people. There's no manual. What's the right thing to say at the right time? I wish we all knew that because we'd be better for it. But that's just something you have to work on continually.
Okay. Overall, from where you sit, and I know you go to a lot of the local high school games and certainly appreciate a win, and if you do. But from your view in the stands, what can we as high school officials, the number one thing, the number one or two things, what can we do better as a group?
I think the thing that I probably notice the most, just because it's one of the things that I struggle with, I think I always try to learn as I watch good officials, and there's great officials in our association locally, people who certainly help me mature and get better and mentor me. But I don't think we talk to players nearly enough. I don't think we take the opportunity during dead balls to develop a relationship with these kids so that we don't look like the enemy. There's something to be said that we put the black and white stripes on and all of a sudden we become unapproachable or, we're the enforcers. And we can break down some of those barriers if we develop a relationship with these kids by, just subtly saying, hey, 12, great play. Or whatever that communication piece is that creates this dialogue between referee and player so that when stuff does hit the fan, we've already got a relationship with those kids that now all of a sudden that communication becomes easier because it's not the first time we spoke to them that night. And so that's one thing I would encourage. It's not every single play and we're not out there to necessarily create friendships and have ongoing dialogue, but just the subtle opportunities to say something to these players, I think, is extremely important. Same thing with coaches. When you're over there with them, maybe you nod your head, coach, I hear what you're saying, just something so that there's a communication piece. And I think way too often, especially with the younger officials, which I once was, is we're scared to death to say anything. And that unfortunately creates maybe a thought that we're unapproachable or we don't want to talk, which is certainly, I don't think, the case. It just, again, perception becomes reality, and they don't think that we want to talk to them. So I would encourage, find a way, find a reason to talk to coaches, talk to players, so that there can be that open line of communication. And then secondly, again, one of my challenges and struggles to get plays right is positioning. I see a lot of referees who are rotating to the right place, but they don't take that one extra step to see in between players or be in the right position to see what truly happened. There's nothing worse. The worst feeling in the world for me as a referee is to be looking at the back of a player's numbers that I'm supposed to be refereeing. Defender is nowhere in sight because all I can see is the offensive guy, number 24, right in the middle of his back. And that's a subtle position adjustment I could have made, one step to the left, one step to the right, to be able to see if there was contact between the two. And just to piggyback on that, I think we have to really communicate with each other that there are times where my primary matchup could potentially become a closed look. And don't guess. Don't put air in the whistle unless you know what happened. And furthermore on that is the understanding of our crew. Back to the previous question, that's where a crew can really develop trust with each other, knowing that the trail had a closed look on a play to the hole, and the center official had that play open up to him, and he comes in and blows. And it's not because he's not trusting the trail. He's just the one who has the best look. And that becomes a real crew builder to know, man, my partner doesn't have a great look at that. I'm going to go ahead and blow. I think that's a great thing for crews to develop a trust and, some team understanding.
Casey, as always, great chat, great visit, good insight, good tips, advice. Final thoughts?
The one thing that I think is common across the entire refereeing world is we always have a lot to say about our fellow officials. We're great evaluators of that guy we refed with or that guy we watched. I would challenge myself and all of us as referees to quit trying to find opportunities to beat up on guys. Let's try to find opportunities to cheer on our officials and cheer their accomplishments and find opportunities to celebrate their accomplishments. I'm guilty, you're guilty, we're all guilty of trying to find, I remember back in the old state championship days, we'd all sit up in the stands and we'd evaluate the guy on the floor. I've really tried to limit the conversations I have about other officials, just because I don't think there's anything good to be gained by that. And karma is real. She'll come back and get you. Not sure when, but there's definitely a time where as you critique other officials and wonder, do they deserve it? Should they be there? Be very careful. And again, I'm speaking to myself as well, but find ways to help one another, develop these partnerships, friendships. Some of the friendships I had from the SOA that I developed as a young guy are forever friendships. And that's some of the stuff that I think is so important and such a great opportunity for us. I can think of a handful of guys that helped me get to where I am. And, I'm forever grateful that they didn't give up on me and they didn't, shake their head and go, holy smokes, he doesn't have a chance. They found ways to help me get better and to improve. And, there's a lot of guys who have called and wished me, congrats. And that stuff means a lot. So I would challenge everybody, find a way to help each other. And then the last thing I would say is don't be afraid to realize that we all have our limitations. We all make mistakes. We all miss plays. And I think the more we try to justify or look for ways to get ourselves out of we missed a play, there becomes an aura about you that trust goes away or your partners don't think. One of our best defense as a referee is to tell a coach, coach, I may have missed that one, or I didn't have a great look. Don't be afraid to be vulnerable. Be real. admit your mistakes and learn from them. Don't make the same mistake twice, hopefully.
Very good. I think we're done.
All right, sir.